Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today is December 11th, 2011, and you're watching Overgrowth Weekly number 52. As I just said 10 seconds ago, because I forgot to unmute my microphone. Oh, such things can happen. I'm Silverfish, and here today, as usual, is Anton.
Hey guys, how are you?
And here as well as unusual is David.
Hello.
So, David, could you just quickly introduce yourself so people know who you are?
Okay. I'm David Rosen. I'm the main programmer for Overgrowth and kind of started up the project in the first place.
Yes, indeed. And you will be joining us, of course, for the rest of the show, and at the end we will have a kick-ass interview. So that is going to be great.
Only because the game is about kicking ass.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. If it was any other game, it wouldn't have been kick-ass. So what's up with you, Anton?
I feel, again, like I'm going to repeat myself, but I actually had my last of the really crazy weeks on my TV show. We were doing what's called dubbing, and dubbing is where you sit and mix all of the sound for the show together. So you cut in the dialogue, the sound effects, the music, all the background ambience that goes into making a movie what it is sonically. So it's a pretty vital step in the filmmaking, TV making process. So it's cool. Also at that point you can kind of say, we're done, and people are no longer allowed to mess with the picture, although that doesn't always happen.
Cool. My week,
How about you?
Yeah, my week. It's been weird. I've been programming as usual and doing some modeling as usual for school. And I also got interested in a new language, or it's fairly new. So I've been learning a bit of Lojban, as it's called. I don't know, for some reason if I find something and I get interested in it, I just obsess over it for several days. So yeah, it's a pretty cool language though.
Nice.
So that should be cool. It's if anyone's interested, it's spelled Lojban. And you, David?
I've just been working, like always.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get more into that in the interview, so that should be cool. But let's jump right into the show. Let's do that. So this week, as you can see, we have 2 levels to show off, which should be really cool. And of course, there are some new mods to show, or talk about, I should say. Yeah, should be a nice episode. But first off, we have the weekly alpha as usual, alpha 160. And it's going to be great having David here to explain anything that we might not understand fully. Okay, first we have added character color palettes with color palette editor. And actually, let's load up the game and show that right now. So I'm going to load a character. Actually, I can't load that character, I just remembered. You need to become him. So I actually need to load a character. Or do I already have a character, maybe? I do. So it is character number uno. There we are. So you make your character into this one. He's all white. Then you do that by going into play mode, and then you hit 1 to change to that character, and then you select him and press Ctrl-Shift-P, and you'll get this palette editor up, and you can just change the colors to whatever colors you want. This is really cool. Do you want to comment on this feature, David? Since you're here and all?
Well, I just really like how the live update feature works. I think it makes it pretty fun just to use it to change the colors. 'Cause
Yeah.
before the live update, even with the same feature, it just was really unpleasant to use. But then once that was working, it suddenly jumped from semi-usable into fun to use, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. There's no, like, as you can see, I always search around with the color thing to find the right colors and stuff. That wouldn't work without having it being live, so that's very true. You have played around with this too also, Anton, I guess?
I have played around with it, and I've talked with Aubrey about it a bit too, about sort of it seems like the way that it's set up, we can have 4 regions basically that you can sort of color per character. And we were talking about, sort of some tricks to create contrast even within those. So if you wanted fur with certain types of detail, I guess he has to prepare the masks, I guess they are, that way to really make those details pop out and stuff. So I actually really like it. I love how quickly you can create a multitude of different looking characters, even though they technically are the same. It's a very fast modding tool, and yeah, it adds instant variety, which is amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very, very, very great tool, and as David says, it's very fun to use, which I think is, yeah, it's very important that it is, and it's very useful at the same time. Yeah, I think a lot of people will have a lot of use of this. It's nice.
For sure. And I always sort of wonder, and maybe we can ask you, are we going to see these types of color palettes applied to things other than characters?
Probably. I mean, technologically it's not very hard, but we just have to have a use case for it. Like if Aubrey needs it for a level, then I can add that. But
right.
I usually just add these things as needed, because there's a high opportunity cost of any time spent on new features.
Sure. Which makes sense, and it seems like it would be pretty easy to hook up. Would that be, since I'm asking, would that be something you could hook up in the current scripting system, or not so easily? Meaning, could it be modded in?
I don't think you could mod in palette support for non-character objects right now, just because it's not exposed through the script.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next... Okay, yeah, next feature. Added white guard for palette testing. That's the one I just spawned right there. Starting on new idle animation system. So, can you explain a bit about the idle animation system, David, or what's that point is all about?
Oh yeah. So before I was making these idle animations, which are a whole animation that's like 10 seconds long, with him fidgeting and moving around, shifting a little bit. But I think it's really inefficient to manually animate an idle animation, because even if it's 10 seconds, which is a lot of work, it's going to be really obviously looping. So now I'm testing out the idea of making idle poses and just adding a bit of procedural animation to it. So right now they only have this really basic like bouncing effect added procedurally, but later on I'd like to add some more like weight shifting and changing arm and head positions.
Cool. That sounds really, really cool, because I mean, when you play a game, you always do see that looping idle animation, even if it is quite long. So I think it makes total sense. It's going to be cool to see it fully implemented and used.
For sure.
I think so, because I want to make it easy to add new idle poses, so you can have new combat stances and new kinds of expressive poses, so you can tell different kinds of enemy AI states.
Nice. Cool. About the enemy AI states, do you plan on having those be analog in any way?
Yeah. I mean, if they're fighting you and they're also scared, then that's kind of a slider. I don't want to just have they're fighting you or they're scared. But
yeah,
I haven't figured out the exact details of how to make that work.
Cool. Yeah, I'm probably going to throw in these questions now and again, because when we're doing these Overgrowth Weeklies, we're always wondering certain things, and now that you're here, who is the knower of all things Overgrowth, then we have to take this opportunity. And it seems like Anton managed to get disconnected. He said he had internet problems before, and it seems like that happened. So unfortunately, Anton is not here right now. Hopefully he'll join us soon again. But moving on, characters only enter combat pose while fighting, which is cool. I thought they only did that before as well, or it was.
Well, before.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you put an idle guy, then he'll just be in his combat stance, like all of the time. And the main character would also do that. If you just have him standing there, he'll be in his bouncing, fighting pose.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even... It's been so long. It has been like that all the time, so I guess I probably just get used to it.
Yeah, it's a big problem for me too, to like figure out what is the most important thing to fix.
Yeah, I guess it's even more of a problem to you since... Yeah, you get kind of... I know myself that you get kind of blind to your own things quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's something that makes it good to have a big community where new people come in from time to time and give their feedback.
Yeah, that's pretty helpful.
Yeah. Next we have added attack damage and knockback parameters. This is nice. I like this. Let's add... Actually... Let's take that guy and... No, not that one. You? Yeah, you. Knockback, let's set that to 5. Let's see. And attack damage there, 5 as well. That should be good. And then let's add another character right there. Oh, we have a bit of lag here. For some reason. I don't know why. Huh. Okay, it seems like this map has some bug in it, because it starts lagging when someone ragdolls. But yeah, as you can see, he's quite strong, this guy now. I managed to kill that guy quite easily. And that's always nice.
Yeah, it's quite a hit there.
Yeah, he flew quite far. I mean, it's quite tempting to set those values to like 100 or something. Feeling like, yeah, that should be fine. But I guess it doubles for each. Like 2 is twice as much as, and 3 is 3 times as much.
Yeah.
So 100 times it's quite a lot.
Yeah, it'll just not fly away at the speed of sound or something.
Yeah. It's nice though. It's nice. I like that thing to have that in the game. It's one more of those easy modding things that you just want in the game. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty easy. I just thought it'd be fun for people who want to be Superman.
Yeah. That's nice. Okay, next we have new Raider Rabbit model that we showed last week. So I'm going to jump into the game, be my character, and press 8 to switch to the Raider model. And there you go. This guy is actually, like, we've seen him before, both in just Aubrey's concept art and we've seen the actual model in the game. But yeah, he just looks great. I love this guy. He's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cool design.
Yeah, I agree. I just, especially the hood. The hood is like, yeah, it's got the right amount of new in it, if that makes sense. It's cool. I like it. And fixed parameter copying. Can you explain a bit what that means?
Well, there's a problem when you would change the parameters for a guy and then copy and paste him. Then the copy wouldn't necessarily have the same parameters. So I just fixed that so
Okay.
it has the same parameters.
Cool. And that's the end of the changelog for this week. Alpha 160. looking forward to the next alpha video. It should be released in, tonight if you live in the US, and tomorrow if you live further to the east in Europe or the like. Should be nice. Can you tell us a bit about what we can expect?
Well, not really. Might as well just wait until the video. It's mostly just random small things. I didn't focus as much on a specific thing as sometimes.
Okay, cool. Well, let's moving on. That's the end of the weekly alpha segment. Moving on into the community segment, and as usual, the first part here is the fan art watch, where we take a look at what's been posted in the fan art thread on the Wolfire forums. So this week we grouped things up a little bit, so we start out with all of Shiny Gem's things, because he always has a lot of things to show us. So we might take all of them in one big swoop. Okay. This one is called Goatman by Shiny Gem, of course. And it's a sketch. He did it I'm pretty sure he did it with using his tablet. I think he wrote. Yeah, he did. Even though he's managed to make it look very much like he's using a pen, he actually did use the tablet. So Anton is writing me. I don't know if that will do any difference. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, Anton lost his internet entirely. Hopefully he'll be able to come online, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he'll be able to come online. So yeah, this goat guy, man, he looks great. What I like about this one, what I think is really good, is that all the anatomy seems to work. And the image seems nice. Of course, it could use a bit more detailing in perhaps the background and the foreground, just some clutter in general, but yeah, I think it's really cool. Do you have any comments on the fan art, David? Do you have it up? Can you see it?
I can see it. It's more of Aubrey's department to give critiques to art, but
okay. Well, if you have anything to say,
just
throw it out, and I'll just go through this. It's fine. Okay. Next we have this image, also by Shiny Gem, of course, and we have Anton back.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going quite well. How's it going yourself?
Well, hopefully better than a few moments ago.
Cool. So we just jumped into the fan art watch. We're looking at Old Bunny, he's called, by Shiny Gem. And this one went through several iterations before he came to this point. And just like the previous one, I think what's great about this one is that it seems like everything is correct with it. Everything seems to just work. Everything looks as I think it should look. So it's nice. I like it. Have you got it loaded up, Anton?
It's now loading up. The one where he's looking at the bookshelf.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I always thought his arm. I mean, I understand his arm is behind his back, but somehow I felt like the angle was a little weird on that. But I actually liked the look of the character. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice. Moving on. Next image, also by Shiny Gem, of course, called By Kitty. He says, I'm quite happy with this one. It's like a cat lady saying farewell to her love who's off to work or her kids after school. If there are schools in Overgrowth even. And this one, like the previous one that he has done, I think is good because it makes sense. There are no more of these small errors. Like you said, the arm on the last image, I thought I didn't quite see that to begin with, but then now that you mention it, I see it, of course. And this is one of the good things about using a drawing tablet, is that you don't need to, if you're doing an error, you can just undo and then redo again, like try to do it again.
Exactly.
And that's much harder to do when you're drawing with pen and paper. So yeah, nice work, Shiny Jim, once again.
Yeah, it's great to see the improvement. That's been my favorite thing about it.
Yeah, I fully agree. And then his last one for this week, I think, is this one. He made it as, you know, a 1 year anniversary for Overgrowth Weekly thing. Yeah, finding my English words. Okay, I'm so great. So thanks for that. It's really cool. I like this one. I think what you could have done better though is the letters could have been in another color. Perhaps they could have been made of stone. Now it looks like they're made out of dirt. And I mean, it looks nice, but gray would have been better.
It doesn't look finished to me somehow.
Yeah.
I think he also said that it wasn't as completed as he wanted it to be. But we certainly appreciate the sentiment.
Yep. It's really nice. So thanks, Shiny Gem, and that should be the last one. Yes, indeed. So other than Shiny Gem, we have actually 4 more, I think it is, fan art posts this week. We have this one to start off with, by Mr. Hi Ho He, if I am not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, Hi Ho He. I present to you Goatzerker. Man, I've been playing too much Skyrim. And yeah, it does remind a little bit of Skyrim, but it's really nice. I really like it.
I like the fur, the hair. It's hair, not fur in this case, I think. It feels like it's really, you know, growing from him and covering him and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like that Daldia anatomy it looks fine to me. I just enjoy nice anatomy. And here this image made by Hunting Dog. He says, "The return of the overgrowth capitalist." Yes. And they apparently used a new art program for this image. He's trying to find a good free one. So the 1% wants you to play Overgrowth, and of course we have one of the endo face variations there. I always forget what it's called though. Do you remember, Anton?
Endo face?
This
oh.
endo face in particular.
No, I don't remember the name of him. Sorry.
Yeah. But he's really cool. He's a really cool guy, and this is a really nice image, and it's probably true.
And what's that?
I mean, who wouldn't want you to play Overgrowth?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Next, we have this image by Keks, K-E-K-S, Keks. Hello there, I drew this picture using the image editor in Blender. At first I wanted to equip the character with the new staff made by Aubrey, but then I noticed that the rabbit doesn't look as if he's holding a weapon, so I changed the concept a bit, and now he's holding a broom instead. What I really like about this image is that the shading in the image seems to be... It's good. I like the contrast in general in the image. It's nice.
It's very consistent, to be certain.
Exactly. And the final, but not the least, is this image by I Want to Be an Artist, who keeps doing great images. And this is a wallpaper that he made of course, the red shards level, and we've got Turner wall running right there. The one thing that bothers me with this image is his left foot is kind of twisted because he's running on the wall. I understand, but it seems like that effect has been added afterwards, and it kind of looks weird to me. But other than that, it's a very great image, as all of his images are.
Yes, Mr. Artist who pretends he wants to be one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough pose to draw. The wall running on a slant like that.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So I can understand that he had to do that in order to get it to work, to twist the foot like that. But yeah.
When you oh, go ahead.
No, go you.
No, you go first.
I insist, Anton.
No, I was going to ask David how he animated the wall run, since we were talking about it, if it's a lot of inverse kinematics or something else to really kind of, because there are times when you wall run on slight angles and things like that. So.
Oh yeah. So that's all a kind of a combination of different technologies. Like in Blender I animate it, but it's a pretty coarse animation. So just get the 4 major keyframes, like the 2 pass points and the 2 extremes. And then in the engine I can do all sorts of smoothing and filters to try and make it match up better with the exact situation.
So if you were to draw a wall running scenario like this in the game, although I think that actually the angle doesn't quite work, it's maybe too much of an extreme angle.
I think in the game on this kind of surface he would actually be running more normally. Like he'd do
that's
the
what I mean.
Straight up run, but have his legs tilted with inverse kinematics.
Right. That was kind of my question.
Cool.
Yeah, the wall run threshold in the game is pretty close to vertical.
I see. So what happens at? I mean, but there's a point where you can't. Is there a point where you can't walk and you can't wall run?
Yeah, at that point he just kind of runs down it. You don't really have much control there.
True.
It's not steep enough to wall run, and it's not flat enough to run on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Someone in IRC is asking if in a situation where it's too steep to walk or run and not steep enough to wall run, would there ever be a sliding animation or a scenario where you would slide down that kind of surface?
Yeah, I'd like to do that. That's kind of on my list, but the list is very long of things to do.
I'm sure, and it's probably not crucial to gameplay to get that in.
Yeah, it might be if I make more, or if Aubrey makes more platforming levels, and we need to add more variety to that. But that's not the first priority.
Right.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's the end of the fan art watch, and this image once again made by I Want to Be an Artist, and yeah, nice job. Moving on, that's the end of the fan art watch for this week, and now we're moving on to the two levels that have been released. First we have Lugari Challenge 6 by Zramulis, and this is one of the one of the harder challenge levels, like considering that it's coming quite early. And I have actually created a video for this, so I'm going to play that for you guys. Oops, started in the middle. And this level is, well, it's very true to the original. I really enjoy playing it because it's so hard. There are so many enemies, so you often end up in situations where you have to face several enemies at once, and I just think that's I'm starting to feel like that's more and more fun. Maybe because I'm getting better at the game.
True. Well, there's also more realistic ways to handle multiple characters all at once. They don't crowd you and kick you all at once anymore, as severely as they were for a while.
Yes, that's true. And now they're also avoiding each other. It was recently added, so I guess that just makes the combat feel better, I guess, when there are several opponents. Yeah.
Now it's funny, the first time I played this level, this remake of this level, I was so determined to beat it that I beat it very easily. I choked out about 90% of the guys, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't so hard." And then I had like 3 times in a row where I barely made it anywhere before I beat the level again. Had you seen these recreations, David?
No, that's pretty cool. I hadn't even thought of redoing them to see how it plays. That's a good idea.
Actually, the first 6 are available already. If you ever want to check them out.
Yeah, I'll have to try that. See how it works.
Some of them feel almost exactly the same. Like you almost kind of, especially I think it was 5. I felt like I kind of jumped because I said, "Man, this feels exactly the same." But they all play a little different. You know, it's of course a different engine, and some of the levels, the terrain isn't the same and things like that. But overall, they feel very close, and they definitely are sort of in the spirit of Lugaru.
Yeah.
And now with
Maybe I should have a secret Lugaru campaign or something.
I think that
I think
would
we
be really
should.
cool.
It looks like some of your animations are sliding a bit. Like maybe you have a really old version of them in your local cache. If you go into your documents and delete the old animations, it should recreate them better.
It doesn't
There is-
do that when I just uninstall and reinstall it?
It won't change your local data.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I should do that. I've been kind of feeling that for a long time, that I have that sliding thing and it's been annoying me, but I just thought it was one of those bugs that would eventually get fixed.
There is ice on this level though too, that you can slide around on.
Yeah, but
That's
I don't
true.
think it's talking about... It's when I do some of the animations, I end up in like too far ahead and then I slide back, kinda.
I see.
Like that.
How often should we be deleting our local cache?
I think there's only one alpha where that happened. Where
Oh,
it would require that.
And,
Okay.
And if you have these problems, where is that cache located?
It's under... If you're on Windows, it's in My Documents, Wolfire.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the local files are. If you just want the animations in particular, it's in Data Animations within that folder.
Okay, cool. I will be sure to do that and see if that fixes my problems. Nice. Okay, but yeah, Challenge 6 by Dramules, it's a really, really cool level, so well done. I'm really looking forward to the rest of the challenges when he creates them.
yeah. It's been a fun series, and he definitely, you can tell that he played Lugaru a lot because it has that feeling of this is really like the game again.
Yeah, agreed. So, moving on to the next level, River Canyon by Last. That was the level that I actually had loaded right here, so let's load this level up. I seem to have very poor performance on this level. So I'm going to jump out of play mode again and fly around instead, because then I have better frame rates. So this was the level that he showed us where a while ago he showed a work in progress shot.
Yep.
And it was created after one of Aubrey's concept arts, as you can see right here. You've played
And he's
this level
done
too, right?
I have played this level, yeah. It's pretty good feeling.
I like the boats.
You know, the boats are awesome. There's some ships off in the distance if you can go find the larger ones, Lucas. Yeah. So he's done a few where he's recreated concept art to the point of being almost identical to what Aubrey had drawn, and they're very cool to see sort of the concept art come to life and how it feels in the real world, so to speak. And yeah, I'm always excited when I see these levels. And then in addition to that, he also has created his own custom terrain, which he's done in the past, but this one to me feels the best of all the ones he's done so far. There's sort of a natural flow of water, and there is a lot of water in the level, and it's very pretty looking.
Yep, he's definitely getting better at doing these levels and these terrains, so yeah, it's good to see. And these are these feel a lot like just exploring levels, which I appreciate. It's very nice just, you know, running around and seeing what you can find, because they're full of just stuff that you can look at. That looks really cool.
Exactly. And I did have an issue opening it when I first downloaded it, and somehow the shader, the shader in the level was set to something else, and I had to change that. I'm not sure what was up with that. He had it set. I don't know, David. Have you ever seen a shader called ray draw, as opposed to post in a level file?
I don't think so.
Okay, so maybe he was just testing something out. So I think he has updated that on the download files, so you guys can go grab it, and hopefully it will work.
Yep. Yeah, I know it worked for me right out of the box, because he had already done the fix when I tried it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Should work. Maybe it's because you're on Mac though. I don't know.
Maybe that's a PC shader only.
Something weird going on with the lighting in this level.
Yeah, there's something actually I think too off about it. I think, yeah, I don't really know what it is. But it seems to be correct since the sun is over there and light
So
falls kind of correctly.
The shadows are correct, but the shading isn't. Like maybe the normal map for the level has some of the channels mixed up.
Yeah, it's we haven't seen very many custom-made levels, so it's possible. I'd be interested to see if we load up some of his other levels, if they have the same issues, or it's something he can investigate. I know he watches the show, so hopefully he might be able to comment on that.
Yep.
That's another thing you can test out by deleting the local files. If the cache was created wrong, then it'll recreate it with a... It should come out better.
So what are you seeing in particular that should clue us into the fact that it's not showing up correctly?
Well, you look at that mountain to your right, then it's kind of dark on the front of it, which is like over there.
I see.
And that's the direction that the light is coming from. So it should be totally bright on that side.
Right. Okay, I see what you're saying, yeah. So I'm not booted up into my Mac partition, so I don't have it installed right now, but I will definitely take a look and try flipping some of those and see what happens.
Yep. But it's really cool. I mean, it looks really good, even with the shading bugs, shading errors, I should say.
Yeah, the geometry is really cool.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So that's the what was it called?
River Canyon.
River Canyon, yes.
By Last.
Yep. So really nice work at last. And next we have community side notes, where we will try to go through a bit quicker these items right here. Yeah. First we have Overgrowth 2D that has been updated. It's the game that I'm working on in school. So I updated it to... so now I have a basic editor that's not working yet. You can't save, but you can remove stuff around. And I've edited like small stuff all over the code, because the code is not very big yet. And I also added a nice main menu. So that's the progress on that. Sure to see more progress on it soon. Next we have Last Blood plus No Death mod. That was updated to work with Alpha 160. This adds more blood or removes the blood entirely if your PC can't handle it. And it can also make you invincible.
I started on a kind of funny 2D overgrowth thing using Flixel once, but only got a few hours into it.
Oh, cool. Maybe
There's competition for you.
Yeah. I'm sure yours would be like miles better than mine, because you know I'm making mine for school. Like I'm doing C# and stuff like that, so it's not very hardcore. I think it would be
It
really
sounds
cool.
harder. Most of the work for mine was done for me by Flixel, so it already had the basic tile platforming kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Cool. It would be really nice to see a 2D Overgrowth game by you, but of course that would dig into Overgrowth development time.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to make some kind of online demo. It has similar mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be nice. Oh well. Yeah. So last Blood plus no death mod. Really cool.
There's a question actually regarding the blood mod towards David, if he wants to answer it, is if you have any ideas how much blood you plan on using in the actual game, since they're saying it feels like you've invested a lot of time in making a good blood animation. It would be sad if there's not enough, but too much might feel cartoonish. If you had any thoughts on where that might end up.
Well, part of the point of the blood system is to be able to make it look really bloody and realistic without actually having a huge quantity. Like in Mortal Kombat, if you punch somebody, there's like more blood than you have in your entire body flies out of them. But if you have it just running down their body, then it's more realistic, I think. Like
Sure.
In real life, if you shoot someone, there's going to be like a very small hole in them, and they're going to fall over at some point, and then they're going to bleed out to... all of the blood in their body is going to bleed out through that hole, slowly. So that's kind of not a huge quantity, but it's a lot more gruesome in a way, because that's just how it really works.
Sure. And I know I've talked to John about it, and he says that you've almost beyond what we should maybe want to do, looked at pictures of what it looks like to see those kinds of things to really make sure it kind of works out. Is that true? I mean, you kind of studied it a little bit to see how you want it to look in the game.
Yeah, that's true. So I've tried to make it pretty realistic, because it's just strange to me that there's so many games that are so filled with violence, but their violence is so kind of silly looking.
Right.
Yep.
So
Right.
I want to make it so you can kind of choose the level of violence that you can use, and it's not necessarily just changing your good or evil slider, but it's actually like violent or not. Like it affects how you feel while you're playing it.
I see.
Yeah, that's something that I really appreciate about Overgrowth. That it's, I really like that you're going for realism. I like realism in almost everything, and it's really nice to see that you're going for a very high level of realism in ways that actually matter. So that's something that I know that I really appreciate. I think it's nice.
They then followed it up with the decapitation limb removal question.
Yeah, that seems to be the most requested feature. Dismemberment.
And how do you feel about dismemberment? Whether it's technological, whether it's actually doable in the game, or if you would even want it in the game.
I think it's doable. It would be pretty uncommon, because you need to have a pretty large weapon and a pretty strong hit for that to make sense. But
Sure.
it's just a question also of how long it would take to do versus other things I'd rather do.
Right. So it's not a high priority feature at this point.
Yeah.
Good to
It
know.
also has a few gameplay challenges, like then you have to deal with what to do with a guy who you've cut off his hand, but he's not dead.
Right.
Things like that.
True. I think the place where people see it sort of, at least the comments I've read that sort of exaggerate the factor, you can get hit by the big sword through the ears and die,
Yeah.
whereas that probably wouldn't kill a rabbit in real life to cut its ear like that. But
You have to make better location-based damage. Right now it's just instant kill wherever you hit, which is kind
Right.
of exacerbated by the realistic blood effects, because then you can see where you hit, and you see that you hit him on the ear, and it's silly.
Exactly. So I guess we'll probably see some update to that at some point. I know you did location-based damage based on falling
Hmm.
a little bit.
Yeah, so I have to hook that up to the other attacks to make that work better.
Cool.
Yeah, nice. Okay, next we have learn_more's angel script dump that he so kindly dumps for us week after week. And yeah, it's used for modders to take a look at what can actually be done with the Overgrowth angel script files. So what functions you can access and such. So this is really useful if you're planning on doing any scripting for Overgrowth.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
Absolutely. Next we have Joe's Tools by Johannes. So this is a user interface mod that he has started creating, but it seems like he's run into some issues with it. So it seems like he cannot actually make it happen. He wants to do more Garry's Mod-like mods where you can, for example, stack things using a stacker tool and so on. Unfortunately, though, the scripting is not cannot interact with any static objects as of yet. So that's kind of hard to do right now, if not even impossible with scripting.
Yeah, I haven't used scripts before, so I'm kind of adding them as needed instead of making a whole universal scripting system like in something more like Unity or UDK. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to add totally new features like that just using scripting.
Yeah. Do you think you will make it so that you can script object placement and such?
Probably, but it'll happen a lot faster if there's some concrete use that we need for actually making the game in the first place.
Yeah. I see. Cool. Yeah, so that's Joe's tools. Hopefully they'll be able to be finished sometime. Maybe he can add some other tools or such. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nice. Okay, next we have Corbin's first person mod. So he is planning and coding a first person mod where you will actually control the character's head and the camera is attached to the character's head. So instead of actually moving the camera and then having the character look in the same direction as the camera, when you move your mouse you will change the actual animation that the character does, and since the camera is attached to the character's head, the camera will follow along. And I think he's got it working right now, but not as well as he would want it to. So he's going to keep tweaking that a bit, and hopefully we will be able to play it during next week.
It's a pretty cool idea. That's actually how all the animation worked in Black Shades, because it's not really the standard thing where you're a flying camera and you control your character like a capsule. It was just putting the camera in your guy's head.
Yeah.
And then it plays the different animations, so you have to actually look down the sights of your animation.
That's really cool. I really like those kinds of things in video games as well, because it adds realism and it makes it feel like you're actually there. I've been looking at, I haven't been playing a lot, but there is a game called Resistance Force that is kind of a Counter-Strike-like game where he's done it like that, where your camera is just attached to your actual character, and that way you can see exactly where your shadow is falling, for instance, like for everyone else, and you can see if your weapon is going like outside of a corner and stuff like that. It just makes it that much better to play.
It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's nice. So I think I will appreciate a mod like this a lot. I liked the other first-person mod, but that one didn't use... it didn't actually move the character's head. It just moved the camera like in normal first-person games. But this one will actually just use the animations, and that's really great.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it.
Me neither. It's going to be amazing.
Twice.
Almost. Okay, next we have your main menu mod that was updated with Zaramili's Challenge 6 level. And soon, I'm guessing you will add Last's River Canyon level?
Yes, I couldn't get last's River Canyon level running in time for today, but I've taken the picture that I'm going to use and I'm just cropping it, and then I should update those files probably within an hour after the show. It's almost done,
Nice.
so it won't be long. And again, for those of you who don't know, it's a mod that lets you. It automatically installs, I believe it's now 50 custom-made maps that you can load from the main menu of the game. So it makes it really easy to try out almost every custom map that has been created.
Wow. I should try that.
It actually also unlocked the desert bridge and the seaside cliffs of that you guys have released that have not officially been added to the game. So
Yeah, this is a really huge mod, and not only that, but there's a Samus Aran is his name. Am I correct?
sure.
He made a installer that can automatically download and install this mod for you. So you just download the installer and run it, and it will automatically download all these 50 levels for you and put them in the correct place, and you can just play them.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing, actually.
It makes things very simple, for sure.
Yeah. Next we have the news segment. That's the end of the community side note segment. Let's move on to the news. Okay, so Urkel on the forums made a minor update about the status of the Linux. So he says he's been finishing up a port for the Humble Indie bundle, but now that that's done, he's going to be back on Overgrowth, and he's hopefully going to have some good progress over the next week or two. So that's nice. And here are some posts. Yeah, nothing new since that. So hopefully we will see Linux very soon.
Care to comment on that, David?
Overgrowth Linux.
Yeah.
I'd like it as soon as possible, but I can't do it myself. Or I could, but I just don't know anything about Linux porting, so it would take a really long time.
Right.
So we're just trying to find people who know how to do it, but they're always busy.
Yeah, the people that seem to know how to do it seem to do it a lot.
Yeah, especially with the Humble Indie bundle. We're kind of adding a lot more demand for Linux porting.
Hey, you know what? That's fantastic. We like to support the Linux community, so I would rather them be busy than not.
Yep.
I agree.
It's really, really nice. And of course, the last news, the last item before the interview is vote for Overgrowth in Indie Game of the Year. So just follow that link there, and scroll down to Adventure, click there, upcoming games of 2011, and then you have Overgrowth, click vote right there. Because we want Overgrowth to win Indie of the Year, of course. So, yeah, I think if you're not, you remember to log in if you have an account, because then your vote will be worth more, I think. At least they had that in previous years. So, yeah, do it, man. And hopefully it'll go fantastic. Okay, so that's the end
Cool.
of the main body of the show, and next we're going to move on with the interview with Mr. David Rosen. Let's switch that picture there, and yeah. Okay, so David, you are, as you said at the beginning of the show, the lead programmer of Wolfire Games, of Overgrowth, I should say, and the founder of Wolfire Games. So, just to start off, can you, just so we can get a bit of a background of who you are and what you've done, just tell us a bit about your history in game development?
Well, when I was growing up, I had a Mac, and there weren't very many games for it. So I started getting into trying to make my own games using HyperCard, like choose your own adventure games, and then just kept on going from there, and made a few games for the UDEV game contest for Mac game programming, like Black Shades and Lightning Shadow and GL Fighters, and then made Lugaru, the rabbit fighting game, which Overgrowth is a successor to.
Yeah. When you started out programming, like I know a lot of people are probably wondering this. This is a big question in many topics, but how would you recommend people actually start programming if they want to do that?
Well, I think modding is a really good place to start because you can see dramatic results really fast. Like if you take a game and you just multiply the number of bullets coming from your gun by 100, then you can start making dramatic explosions everywhere.
Yeah.
And so modding is good because it's a lot more exciting than making your first like hello world printf function in C.
Yeah.
So that's a nice place to start. So I'd probably go from modding to one of the easier to use engines. Like all engines are hard to use just because games are hard to make, but using something like Unity or Game Maker or something like that could be a good place to go on after you make mods. Because there's somewhere like halfway between programming games and making mods.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually you'd probably find that kind of restrictive at some point, and then you want to start making your own things from a lower level.
Yeah.
Or not. A lot of games are made just completely using these engines.
Yeah, a lot of people actually only make games on, I guess you could call them, I don't remember the word, but they're higher up, like they're not very deep. You know the word, right?
Like higher level games?
Yeah, high level language, is that a word?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people only use, for example, Game Maker, and you make games for Game Maker, and they're very successful. And I haven't used Game Maker, for instance, myself, but apparently you can do some pretty cool stuff with it. So that's nice.
Because in the end, that's the point of contact with the players. Like, the players don't really care how you made it. They just care that it's fun to play.
Yeah, exactly.
So, unless you really need some kind of custom technology, there's not much point in making your own engine.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm talking about when you went from Luguru to Overgrowth, what aspect of Luguru did you want to keep and build on? And are there any aspects of Luguru that you felt like were bad decisions or that you shouldn't have put in Luguru to begin with?
Well, one thing I want to keep is the whole open level idea. So you have a level and you have a goal, and then it's up to you how you approach it, instead of having any scripted events or tight corridors. So I'd like to keep that in Overgrowth. The main problem I thought with Lugaru was just I didn't have enough time to add more higher level mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
So that there's always the one objective, which is to defeat everyone, or to get from point A to point B. I didn't have much time to explore all different variations on things you could do.
Yeah, and Lugari was like that. It was I think that's why people liked it. I actually think that's one of the reasons a lot of people liked it, was because it was simple and easy to grasp, but still the combat mechanisms were so deep that they made up for the rest of the game.
Yeah, but I'd like to make the rest of the game better in this one.
Yeah, that's cool. So talking about that, like, what do you think is the most important part of a video game to you?
Well, there are a lot of different layers to video games, and the best ones are strong on every layer. A lot of games now, they only have the one layer because it's just easier to make a game that way. Like in something like Gears of War, they just have each encounter is kind of separate, and you just have to go through the corridor. You have your regenerating health, so you always have the same starting health, and you have your very plentiful ammo, so you don't have to worry about preserving ammo. And there's just the one mechanic. But I like it when there's a lot of different layers which kind of interact and add some context to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mountain Blade is kind of fun because it really matters what you do.
Yeah.
And you can kind of feel pride in starting out a battle in a good way, because you like manage to scrounge up really good weapons and a good team, and then you can go in and exploit that advantage.
Yeah, it's nice. So it's the like intertwining and combining of a lot of elements to create a game that you think is important.
Yeah, like in Lugaru, like the point of the open level design in Lugaru and Overgrowth, and also in a lot of other games like Deus Ex and so on, is that once you start a fight, you have all your fight mechanics, which make that kind of fun. But it's also fun just to pick that context for the fight. So if you sneak up behind someone and kill them, then it's not because they just happen to be placed facing away from you on a scripted corridor. You actually had to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's interesting. I'd like to add some more higher level layers like that in Overgrowth. Like group dynamics and levels of violence and things like that.
Cool.
In terms of levels of violence, you've talked a lot about options for non-lethal confrontation or endings to confrontation. Is that going to still be a fairly prominent aspect that you can play in the game?
I'd like it to be, and it's hard to tell how much I'll have time to actually make, but I'd like to have people pay a lot of attention to how much violence you're using into the context of each fight. So one thing I don't like in action stealth games is where people see you and they immediately just start trying to kill you. Like they never have any trouble deciding if you're a friend or an enemy, or how much force they're willing to use to kill you, or whether they want to risk their life on a confrontation. So I think it'd be cool for them to keep track of how dangerous they think you are and how much they would like you dead. And like, are you threatening their lives, or are you just a job? Like they're a guard, they've been hired to do something, and they have to weigh how much that money is worth versus how likely you are to kill them.
Are we likely to see a wage parameter in Overgrowth then?
I think it'd probably be more like a motivation parameter. Like a threshold at which they decide this isn't worth it.
Cool.
And if they decide it's not worth it, is it something where they would actually give up, or is it something where they then try and find someone else to help them like it currently is in the game, or is it or would there be other options for how a character can sort of give up? Do they just run away and and if everyone is in runaway mode, then you've beaten the level?
Yeah, I think that depends a lot on what the objective is. Like if your objective is to actually kill everyone, then you really don't want them to run away. So you'd probably want to be as unscary as possible or something like that. But if your objective is to steal something and then get away, then it might be a good idea to try and scare them.
Right. Cool. That makes sense. Yeah.
Overgrowth could be like a social experimentation game almost.
It's easy to design things in theory. The hard part will be actually making it work.
Yeah.
Right, especially with the sort of current level of interaction, response that you get back from the characters. There's not necessarily a definable way to read how a person feels about you in the game. And so I imagine designing a mechanic to give that away that's not, charts or graphs or something like that. If it's body language or some other, yet to be defined parameter that tells you how you should expect to confront an enemy, will be interesting. Have you thought about that yet, or any...
How to tell how people feel about you?
Yeah, and any way to sort of read a situation before, like if you say you were going to, in sort of a typical Lugaru fashion, there's an encampment with raiders and you have to go in and you have to, as you're planning to go in and do whatever it is you're planning to do, meet your objective, can you from a distance somehow read the level of of the intention of the opponents, or is it going to still sort of be a little bit of guesswork?
Well, the only thing you can tell from far away would be what they're equipped with and how they're moving. So I think you'd have to have a lot of it in the context for the level. Like if the level is about you're just sneaking up on a random raider encampment, they probably wouldn't be super motivated because they don't have anything to defend really. It's just a campfire and a tent or something.
Sure.
So they would probably only attack you if they're pretty sure that they're going to win.
I
So
see.
I think I'd try and rely a lot on the context, but it'd also be like if they have swords and you're unarmed, they'd probably be pretty confident.
Makes sense. Some people in the chat have mentioned ear position. Have you ever considered that as an identifying placement, some way to give away emotion in the game?
Yeah. I'd like to do that especially for stealth, because you're going to be pretty close to them anyway. So then you'd actually be able to see more subtle details like that. But
If their ears perk up, or placement forward, backward, and that kind of stuff.
yeah. But I'd like to have more like full body poses, because the game has a pretty wide field of view. Like a lot of
Yes.
games now, they have very narrow field of view because it's more suited to aiming with guns and down corridors. But Overgrowth has very wide field of view, kind of compounded by being third person. So enemies get really small really fast. So you have to have pretty broad expressions to read from any significant distance.
That's true.
I think actually the ears are good for that, because the ears always stand up, or like they stand out from the head, so you know where to look, and they actually define the profile of a character when you look at him. So I think actually ears would be readable from quite a distance.
At least on rabbits.
Yeah,
Might be harder
rabbits.
on cats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be one aspect to it. But like if they're patrolling around on their rounds and they hear something, they might also just freeze up and kind of act more tense.
Mhm.
Sure.
But the ears are a good indicator also.
Cool.
I'm sure there will be loads of layers when the game is finished. Looking forward to it. But moving on to another matter. You're the only developer, or the only programmer, I should say, on Overgrowth, and being the only programmer on a project of this size, it can't be easy all the time. So, like, how
Just
do you
most of the time.
how do you keep your motivation up?
Well, the weekly alpha videos help because I have to have something cool for the video on Sunday. So that's one way to stay motivated in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's just like I have to make it good. Like if I don't keep making the game better, then what have I been doing for the last 3 years? It would all be kind of wasted.
Yeah.
So that's a good long-term motivation. So staying motivated isn't really a problem.
I see.
The hard part is to take time to do anything else, really.
How much do you
I
actually...
know that feeling.
How much time do you spend on developing Overgrowth, roughly?
Well, I work on it every day for most of the day, but I've been taking Mondays off recently because it's the day after the video. So it seems like a good time to take off.
Yeah. I think you should take at least one day a week off.
Yeah.
So that's good.
I'm glad to
trying to-
hear that too.
Trying to be able to pay a little more attention to how well I think I'll be able to focus once I'm working. Because if I'm not going to be able to focus anyway, then I might as well just take an extra day off. Do something fun to recuperate instead.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always a problem. Not just with game programming, but anything that's self-directed. You have to manage yourself effectively.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm asking you, because you seem to... I mean, you've been working for several years on this project and come very far on your own, programming-wise. So a lot of people do not have that discipline to actually do that. So that's why I think it's really interesting I mean you in particular on that subject. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've always been working like this, so I don't really know what's normal.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, all of the projects that start up and then never, get anywhere and stuff like that. That's people just, that's people losing their motivation. But do you think what you do on the free time is, on your free time is important to your motivation or your willingness to work on the game? Or is that just, or do you just sit down and work every day and it doesn't matter what you've done previously or, yeah. You know what I'm trying to ask?
Well, it can depend. Like sometimes I'm inspired by something that I've been doing. Like I've been playing Zelda Skyward Sword recently, and a lot of the lower level mechanics aren't actually good at all, but they do a really good job of layering lots and lots of different mechanics. So you always have this puzzle layer, and then you have the action layer beneath it, and then on top of that you have the constant like upgrade trees, and then you have the actual puzzle-related upgrades, like actually finding new items. So they do a really good job of having lots of layers of progression.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me want to try and do that in Overgrowth, because right now I don't have any layers of progression.
Yeah. But like, if we talk about, do you, for instance, think that it's very important to exercise or something to be able to focus when you work, or like what's your view on those kinds of things? Or do you advocate like having a very good eating habits, like eating good food, and then you feel like you work better, or?
Yeah, I think those are both actually pretty vital, because also if you don't exercise, you might not be able to sleep very well. You might not have energy to focus, because like your mood is really important when you're doing self-directed work. Like if you're working at Starbucks or something, then you can do your work even if you're sleep deprived and tired and unhappy. But if you're doing some kind of self-directed creative technical thing, then you have to be in a pretty good state to be able to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm in a really bad mood and I sit at the computer, it's a lot easier to get distracted and just like read Reddit or something all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I try and stay in good physical and mental health. That's not always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, it can be hard. I think I've heard before that you do martial arts. Is that correct?
I kind of do that on and off, more off than on recently, but I did it for a long time back in school.
Mm-hmm.
And recently I've just been kind of like free trial hopping, because a lot of places in San Francisco, they'll do a 1 or 2 week free trial.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of interested in comparing, contrasting different styles anyway, so I've been trying out different free trials.
Cool. Because Tanjevik from the community had a question asking, what your favorite martial arts movie is.
Nice.
The best one is The Legend of Drunken Master, which is the second Jackie Chan Drunken Master movie.
I mean your favorite martial arts move.
Oh, moves.
Yes.
I thought you said movies.
I thought
You
you
go
said
on for a
movies
long
too.
time about movies.
Yeah, I probably did say movies. I'm sorry.
Okay. Martial arts moves. Well, the guard position is the most important, really. Like keeping your fists up in front of your face. Like you see all these people doing their fancy martial arts, like they're trying to act like they are in movies, but the problem is your reaction speed is just physically, your nerve impulses won't get to your limbs fast enough to actually block an attack. Like blocking is kind of a myth, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to learn the patterns of like dodging and blocking. So you have a 95% chance of blocking any particular attack.
I see. Cool. But now that we were talking about movies, I don't want to disappoint people, so I'm going to let you finish that one as well. So, what's your favorite martial arts movie?
Okay, so my favorite is the Jackie Chan one I was talking about, because it has a really wide variety of different fight scenes and very high quality. Like the one at the end, it took them 5 months to film. Involves like him jumping onto a bed of hot coals, which are actually hot coals, because Jackie Chan is super hardcore like that. And his opponent is actually his personal bodyguard.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, you wouldn't want anyone else trying to hit him on not purpose.
Yeah. So it was just it's also a really funny movie. Like, he actually does good acting in it, which is kind of surprising.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to check it out. I never, or very rarely, watch movies. So that should be cool.
He also invented his own martial art for it. Like, there is no real martial art that's like the one that he does in the movie. So he created his own kind of drunken boxing Hollywood version.
Nice.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. The whole drunken boxing thing is such it's a sort of a myth in the martial arts community, that even within Kung Fu, people have started teaching drunken forms. But I also studied Kung Fu for a long time, and my teacher's like, it's a joke. It's very very modern added thing, and based on basically Hollywood, except for Hong Kong films. That's sort of where it came from more than actual use. So
Yeah. The big part of their business is catering to people who want to look like they're in a martial arts movie.
Exactly.
Which is cool too, of course. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in a martial arts movie?
Yeah.
Really.
I think that real martial arts are cool and Hollywood martial arts are cool, but it's important not to confuse them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Then you get mugged and you try and do some kind of jump spin kick and you just slip and fall and get stabbed.
Not a good day. And then they take your wallet.
Yep.
Yep.
Actual fighting on the streets is pretty ugly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a place nearby that teaches Krav Maga, which is one of the more practical martial arts. And always telling you what to do when you get mugged, and it's always just run away.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
That sounds like advanced martial arts. Like, okay, your opponent is going after you with a knife. What do? Run away. Simple.
Yeah.
Just run away.
The martial arts are for after you've tried to run away and they catch you.
Oh, I
And
see.
you want to have a 20% chance of surviving instead of 10.
Yeah. That's true. That's smart. That's cool. Nice.
Run away!
So,
Nice.
jumping from one topic to another, we know since a blog post written by Jeff, that you can speed read. And in a recent alpha video, we also saw that you can speed write, or you can write very quickly. And, how?
Well, I don't always type as fast as I look like I'm typing in those videos, because the first and foremost point of the videos is to look interesting.
Mm-hmm. So
I can type pretty fast, but sometimes I'll speed it up.
Because in this video in particular, it looked like you hadn't used any time-lapse at all, which was why people reacted.
Yeah. Recently I saw this video about someone coding an NES emulator. It's a 15-minute video. And he'd actually made a tool-assisted program, because he's a guy who does tool-assisted speedruns of games like Mario, where he beats the whole game of Mario in 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So he had choreographed every keystroke and then run it through this program. So it looked exactly like he was typing, and he even would copy and paste things instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But he had done it just so he could make it look interesting to do that.
I see. And like, have you? So what are you doing? Are you actually writing that as quickly as it looks like you are, or?
Sometimes I am, but sometimes I'll speed it up a little bit.
Okay, good. And like a related question by Confused from the forums, since you can write quickly, you can read quickly. Can you also speed think?
I don't know. That's a hard one to answer because you don't really know. There's not really a thinking race that you can enter and see how fast you can think. But one thing I do is I keep a lot more in the short-term memory versus long-term, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, part of why I can't say the changelog is I don't actually know what I changed this week. I usually just go back and look at the subversion commits to see what changed and then write up a changelog. But otherwise, I don't really know for sure.
Oh, I see.
Because everything kind of blends together.
Yeah.
After a little while.
You probably also don't think in week-long chunks in terms of what has actually changed, meaning that to you a change you maybe didn't even start a change this week, but it happened to just finish this week and make it into the changelog. I totally could see how that would not be that would not be very easy to define. You've sort of been working on all of these things for a long time anyway, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you have to, back about speed typing, you have to be careful about believing anything you see in a video on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, if I want to, like, I have a little bit of experience doing special effects for movies and things like that. Like, it'd be easy to cut a screen in half and speed up half of the screen. And things like that.
Yeah.
Right. I made a comment about that last week. I think it was the previous week's alpha where you wrote, I think it was 5 lines of text with inside the parameter editor or something for a hotspot. And that was the one where people kind of got really excited. And I said it'd be easy enough to just isolate even that one section just to speed up the typing, even if the background is moving at the same rate.
Mm.
Yeah, specifically it was the one where you demonstrated that you had the scroll bar and the parameter editor. I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a cool feature that Jeff had. Jeff added the expanding text bar, and he was really happy with it, because nobody had ever actually done a text box quite like that, that expands itself to a certain limit and then turns into a scroll bar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very convenient, because most of the time you don't want a constant scrolling bar, but then at the same time you usually won't write so many lines that you need the scroll bar, or that it could all fit. So I agree. I think it's an awesome feature, a great feature.
It's super good.
Jeff is really into user interface design. Like, a while back we weren't sure if we were going to go with Osimium for the UI, so he recreated his own Phoenix UI, which exactly copied the Mac OS X interface using Real Basic. And I thought it was cool to be able to have the attention span to do that, like to think that UI is so important.
Yeah. It's a very overlooked aspect of game interface. I mean, not game interfaces, just computing interfaces now. People sort of have forgotten, maybe, so to speak, what computer interfaces used to be like. And even me, at my age, I barely ever had a time where I had a computer without a mouse, although at the beginning I definitely did. And, it's a very different world that we work in terms of user interface. So it's great, I think, having someone on the team that can focus on that aspect of it so specifically.
Yeah.
Yep, that's really cool. We should start with the final questions here so we can finish this up. I wanted to ask you about Desura and Overgrowth, since you're getting the Linux port and all that, and it seems like you're soon going to be on Steam. But since there is no Linux version of Steam, are you in some way planning on using Desura?
I'll probably look into it, but I'll have to see how hard it is, because another thing Jeff does is package up the alphas each week, and every time we add a new alpha distribution method, that adds extra work. So if Desura added an extra couple hours every week, then that probably wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
But if it's really easy to do, then sure, that would be cool.
Cool. And how are things on the Steam front?
Steam is still going along. Their Mac tools have some issues, so we're trying to figure out a better way to handle that, because we have to design the process to make each alpha fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm. But it's coming along then. That's good to hear.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's still, we haven't forgotten about it.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in relation to that, people were also asking, you guys had started an auto updater. I believe Jeff was sort of heading that up. Is that still in the works?
We're not really focusing on that right now, especially with if we can get Steam working soon, because Steam already has pretty good auto updating built in.
Right, that was the reason I wanted to ask, is if you would still do it on your own, or if you would sort of start relying on Steam for that function.
Yeah, probably for now, because in the long run it'd be fun to make some kind of open source auto updating project, but I don't know if anybody has time for that right now.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And closing the end, the end is coming even closer. So I'm asking, when you're done with Overgrowth, what do you think? What do you think you'll do when you're done with Overgrowth? Like, do you have any plans right now?
I have a lot of ideas, but it's hard to know what will actually seem most appealing at the time. It might be nice to take a few weeks.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to take more than a few weeks.
Yeah, but one thing I'd like to do that I've been thinking about a lot is making open source game components, because I kind of don't really like the idea of game engines entirely, because a lot of them have different strengths and weaknesses, and the games all end up looking pretty similar. So it'd be nice to be able to have like an open source texture library, source sound renderer, and things like that, and drive them by using them in a game.
That sounds interesting. Would you use portions of what you've done for the Phoenix engine, or would this be something again from scratch?
I definitely use parts of it, but I'd like to make them better. Because everything in Overgrowth is designed specifically for the game. It's not really designed as an engine.
I see.
And the problem with a lot of open source projects is they're not like battle tested. Like, nobody's going to use some open source library if it's not been used in something they already are familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, people use Havoc because it's used in every game, and they don't, I think, even bother comparing it to Bullet, because nobody even has a good comparison with it.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. I mean, it's like that with a lot of things. Like, if something's already used, then people are going to use that just because they know that a lot of people use it, then it works.
Yeah. So I'd like to develop whatever my next projects are using in this kind of modular fashion.
That's cool.
That
Nice.
sounds great.
Yep. And yeah, do you have any more questions, or should I fire the last one?
Well, I have this. I have a list of questions from the chat if we want to try and go through them. I have about 7 more questions, but I think we definitely should consider wrapping it up here soon. So I probably won't take any more. But I can just go down this list if you still have time, David.
Sure. Yeah, usually all I do today is just make the video. So I'll have some time.
All right. Um, some people were asking about the sort of communication methods between the main character and the NPCs, in terms of I know that Aubrey has kind of shown off some dialogue bubbles, but they were also asking about voice acting, which I know you and I have had several conversations about, and whether or not you're still considering that route or if it's kind of not going to happen, or what your thoughts are there.
I'd like to try out some different options first because voice acting is tough. Like, it's easy to get the voice and the recording done at a high quality, especially with modern microphones and internet and things like that. But getting a good performance is really hard, and it would be really kind of pretentious of me to think that I could do that effectively on my first try. Like, at first I was thinking just taking it seriously would be enough, but I think I'd have to find people who are actually good at directing and acting and writing to end up with anything that's better than what I see in most games.
Right.
Like, there's this common myth, I think, in indie developers that AAA developers are just bad. Like, they don't know what they're doing. But really, it's just that it's really hard to do it.
It's true. It's true. Obviously I work in sort of a related field, not exactly the same, but when I was working on Star Wars, we went to LucasArts, and we saw the people working on all these different languages for the Star Wars games, and it's a lot of work. Not only is it to get a good performance, but how well is it acted, and then in their cases they even have all these languages which in some ways help hide the fact that's able to help hide the voice acting some, but then at the same time you have to get these interesting sounds that have to sound uniform and stuff. And I imagine that I would think that for you to get a consistent performance from different actors would require having some sort of control over how they record it.
Yeah. And then you also, even once you have your masterful voice recording, you have to combine it with the rest of the game, like the animations and things like that.
Right.
Like, some of the very few effective examples of voice acting, like in BioShock and Portal, they're all totally disembodied. Like, I can hardly... The only example of successful voice acting that has a character on screen is probably Uncharted. But they went like all out with that. It was filmed basically in the same way as Avatar, with the mocap and the voice and everything done at the same time, using really high-end actors. And that's
Right.
definitely not something that I can do for Overgrowth. So,
Well, and even to me, it still felt a little disconnected. And I agree that it was good, but I mean, even Avatar, which I haven't actually seen, but I've seen enough of it. Even there, it always feels disconnected to me. They don't feel like it's really coming from that character. So,
yeah.
I think we start getting into the uncanny valley at that point where I just don't believe it, and it's going to be hard to cross that threshold.
Yeah. So if I had voice acting, it would probably... Like, it would work well for narration. Like, that's pretty tried and true. Like, Bastion is a good example of indie narration that works well. Or Dear Esther.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if narration would be a good fit for Overgrowth at all.
It seems like the wrong
Yeah.
genre, I think.
It's not really a noir game or anything like that.
Right.
Some
Go ahead.
other example, like, there's some other alternatives, like someone just mentioned Magica, where they made up their own nonsense language. But that mostly worked, I think, because it was a comedy game. And
Right.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like English still. I mean, doing a made-up language that sounds like English is almost by default humorous.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you don't want it to be just gibberish, and in that case, then it wouldn't be useful at all, really.
True.
So there's a lot of options to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I certainly know that I've liked some of the concepts that Aubrey has shown off in terms of icons and sort of little text bubbles and things. So those, those will be interesting, I think, to see if they progress, how they progress.
Yeah. The main thing I want to do that makes it hard to do the text boxes is I think that it should be in real time. Like if you want to, you should be able to just punch somebody in the face while they're talking to you if you don't like them. So I don't want villains to be able to make you just like sit through their monologues if they have one. You should be able to actually act, I think.
Right. That's always tricky. I always find that if I cut off a thing, like I always find in those situations where you can interrupt dialogue that I accidentally hit a button and do it by mistake and skip the dialogue that I then wanted to see, and I have no way to go back.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there would be a skip dialogue button. It would just be your normal controls. So if you accidentally like jump kick them in the face, then you have some serious manual dexterity issues.
Yeah, but I mean,
that may be.
You just put your hand on the mouse and accidentally hit the left mouse key, and you accidentally kick them in the stomach.
Yeah.
It's stop making fun of me. Oh,
I was serious though.
I know.
Yeah, that happened for me in Bloodlines a lot. Vampire the Masquerade, because they have left click is continue dialogue and it's also shoot. So often I'd be clicking too much and I'd accidentally just pull out my gun and shoot somebody in the face who I'm talking to.
Nice.
I think they put that in the game like on purpose so that the game would like reflect your feelings towards them talking to you, since you're skipping the dialogue so quickly.
Either that or they just want a bunch of replay value, you know. I didn't get this line, I have to go back and see it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you'll be able to go back and revisit any level individually. So it shouldn't be a big deal if you miss something the first time.
Okay.
It's cool.
We'll try and keep moving forward a little. There's been a lot of questions about sort of the future of what you plan to do. We sort of talked a little bit about the Phoenix engine. You said your modular thing. People are asking if Black Shades 2 might ever come out. If you think you'll be doing any more design tours, just sort of the general future of what your plans are. But I guess you kind of covered that a little.
Yeah, like I don't want to license the Overgrowth engine just because I think it'd be unethical. Like it'd be a bad idea for anyone to license it because it's very specific to this game. I think every engine is very specific to a certain genre. Like Unreal Engine is basically a first-person shooter corridor engine, possibly third-person shooter corridor engine. But it's not actually like there's no such thing as a multi-purpose engine. Like you can't use Unity to make StarCraft 2.
Right.
Or anything like that. You always need the special purpose technology for whatever you're doing. So I think that breaking it down into pieces will be the best way to make reusable code.
That makes sense. Would you ever design another game in Phoenix Engine?
Maybe. And I'd probably break it down first and reuse parts of it. Because
all right.
A lot of it is probably not applicable.
Sure. Unless it's Overgrowth 2.
Yeah. There's a lot of parts that definitely might be, like the blood system or the terrain rendering, things like that.
Sure. Yeah, I think the blood system could work well in a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
I
think every game should use it.
Yeah, you should keep the blood system and just... Even if the game you're developing does not contain blood, you should still improve the blood system, and in the end you'll end up with something insane.
Yeah. perfect blood system.
Right. I'm gonna skip a couple here, but I'm gonna ask. Probably, I definitely don't want. We shouldn't discuss specifics, but people are curious if you've been working on the story for the game. I know that you've talked about, or at least what I've heard is you guys are waiting until you know what you can make with the game before you start really focusing on the story. But how is there anything? I mean, are you guys moving forward with that? This asked specifically if the comic was going to end up at all in the story, and if you have any comments on that.
Well, so far we've mostly been thinking about like how will the story work and what is it about, in the sense of like what is it actually about, not what happens in the plot. So it's kind of more important for us to plan out the different themes and structure of the story. It's more important than the actual logistics of the plot, I think.
That makes sense.
Some basic ideas. We definitely want to have more like fundamental ideas. Like the Nintendo strategy is always your guy pursuing a princess or other desirable female and then she gets taken away, so you have to get her back. And that's pretty basic, but it actually works a lot better than most game stories. They tend to get really convoluted and silly. Mm-hmm. So I want to keep some simple sort of archetypal stories and explore other ones besides the rescuing the princess, but the same kind of simplicity to the basic idea of each arc.
Right. That's I think that's a reasonable and realistic goal, to be honest.
Agreed. I concur. Are there any more questions?
I think we will probably stop with that. I mean, I can ask, the other ones were if you have any thoughts on the philosophy of parkour, which of its heart is the art of running away, or if you ever watch any of the fan videos, if you still have plans for the animatics, and maybe the parallax renderings that you created. Those are the three left. That if you want to answer any of those.
Well, I should probably do one at a time because they're not really related.
No. But do you want to answer all of them? I mean, I feel like we've had you talking for quite a bit, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So did any of those kind of catch your attention? Something that you feel like you could comment on?
Well, the animatics are one idea for replacing dialogue. Like have people kind of talk in mini cutscenes. Inspired a little bit by Machinarium, which handled dialogue in a similar way.
Yes.
And philosophy of parkour of running away. I think that's a good idea.
Well, I mean that is the philosophy of parkour. The sort of reason it was invented was you want to get as much as possible the fastest way from point A to point B, and if you feel like that really plays a role in the overgrowth setting.
Yeah, well, the characters in Overgrowth are extremely athletic, so they always move around like that because that's just the most efficient way for them to go. And parkour is basically to free running as martial arts are to Hollywood martial arts. Right. So in Overgrowth we're kind of somewhere in between those. Like, it's still definitely Hollywood stuff. Like, you jump and you flip all over the place. But I'm trying to have more of a core idea that's more towards the realistic version.
Sure. So it's a little more realistic to jump a couple times up a wall, but not to, like, leap, I don't know, huge buildings or something. Yeah.
I kind of want the flashiness to tie into the enemy AI a little bit. like if you're doing some kind of crazy flashy stuff, then you might be more intimidating than if you just do things in the most efficient and straightforward way.
That makes sense.
Cool. So it's kind of like in Luger where you would flip and they would be like, oh, for a moment.
Yeah.
So
Like
you
in
have time to
Lugar, you
stab
could
them in
do
the back.
you could do the wall kick, but it wasn't actually much more effective than a normal kick. But it's a lot more dangerous. So I think to balance that out, you could have it more impressive. Like maybe sometimes you're fighting and your goal is to impress somebody instead of actually to kill everyone or to get somewhere. So if your goal is actually to impress everyone, then you probably want to do a lot of flashy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I really miss the wall kick. I gotta be honest. I keep waiting for that to be in Overgrowth.
It's a nice one.
I actually felt that it worked really well on groups of people because it was an easy way to sort of get away, do the kick, and sort of run away again.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's just me.
So that was it. Any more questions from you?
I think we should probably wrap them up. You should ask your final question.
Yes, I have actually one very very fast question before the last question that I just remembered. I saw a tweet that you made. I think you retweeted it actually, and it said that you had actually implemented ambient occlusion in Overgrowth.
Oh yeah, screen space ambient occlusion.
Yes, is that something we're going to see in the game, or did you just do it for fun and then throw it away?
I'm probably going to keep it like the cascading shadows are now, so it's mostly useful for editing to get a preview of how it will look when you bake everything down. Because just getting the screen space ambient occlusion working is one thing, but getting it to work like really fast and really compatibly in the production code is going to be a lot harder.
I see.
So I don't know if I want to spend the time to do that.
Okay. Well, that answers that question. And then the final question that everyone on Overgrowth Weekly who we interview here gets. If you were a part of the Overgrowth universe, if you lived in the Overgrowth universe, what animal race would you be? From the ones that do exist or another one in Overgrowth. So what race would you be and what would you be doing?
That's a tough question.
Yes.
Well, I think the rabbits are the most creative in that world, or in general. So I'd probably be one of them doing some kind of artistic thing.
Cool. Nice. All right. Thanks for being on the show, and yeah, thanks for being in the interview and all that.
It was very interesting.
Thanks for inviting me.
Nice. Yes, it was great having you. So, all of you, thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.